We start though with the huge news involving champions Manchester City, who are suing the Premier League over its financial regulations in an unprecedented legal case. City say the rules are designed to stifle their success on the pitch. The hearing will begin on Monday. Well, Anton Touloui joins us live from the Etihad Stadium now. And Anton, City have an issue with the associated party transaction rules that were brought in. Just explain to us exactly what they are and just why City don't like them.
Yeah, should we just call them APT, shall we, for short? It's a lot easier, I suppose, than going through the full name for these. But basically, these rules were brought in to control how much club owners could invest in their clubs through the companies that they also are connected with. So, for example, we're outside the Etihad Stadium. We obviously have links with the Manchester City ownership based in Abu Dhabi. Now, any commercial activity between Etihad and Manchester City has to be looked at by the Premier League, and they will look at the size of the contract and deem whether that is a sort of commercially viable deal or whether it's been inflated for owners to put more money in. If it is, they will say that deal shouldn't be sanctioned by the Premier League. And it is that rule that Manchester City take a massive objection, but they're not happy about that rule at all, for two reasons. One, like you said, they feel as though it stifles competition, but two, they also feel it goes against the competition rules that are in place in this country. Basically, they feel as though, look, companies are in place, they have boards of directors, they have financial chains of command. They should be able to decide what they deem a fair commercial deal, not the Premier League. And not only Manchester City obviously trying to get the rules changed, they want to seek financial compensation for the damages and the revenue that they've lost with these rules being in place. That's what's going to be discussed at this hearing over 2 weeks that start on Monday.
And Anton, clearly there will be implications of this legal action, whether City win or lose it.
Yeah, look, those implications are obviously going on about the 115 charges that Manchester City are facing, brought back by the Premier League about their sort of financial, what they see as financial mismanagement and bending of the rules potentially. Now, that is the interesting thing. These are two separate cases. The Times, who initially reported on this new case that Manchester City are bringing against the Premier League, they're saying that the 115 charges will be heard in November. And this is the thing, it's been a backdrop to Manchester City's success over the last couple of years, hasn't it? How much has the previous spending helped Manchester City get to where they are now, and have they broken the rules in doing so? It's something that's frustrated Manchester City fans. It's something that has frustrated the club's chairman as well, who's given an interview to City TV that was filmed on June the 1st.
Of course it's frustrating. I think the reference is always frustrating. Having it being talked about the way it's being talked about. I can feel, of course, for our fan base, for everyone associated with the club, to have these charges constantly referenced. I think we, as a club, have to respect that there's a process that we have to go through, and we're going through it. It's taking longer than what anyone hoped for, but it is what it is. And I've always repeated that in every interview I've done with you, Chris, is let's be judged by the facts and not by claims and counterclaims.
Like I said, these two cases are separate. Obviously, Manchester City's hearing and the suing the Premier League is taking place on Monday. The charges we hear are going to take place towards the end of the year. But you can't help but feel if Manchester City are, if they're fined in favour in this court case in the next couple of weeks, then you can't help but feel they'd be more buoyant considering the financial restrictions that the Premier League impose and things that are being discussed at the end of the year.
What about other Premier League clubs then, Anton? Does City have support from elsewhere with this?
Well, according to the initial report from the Times, they say that there's at least support from one Premier League club. Look, any change in the Premier League rules needs 14 out of 20 clubs to agree to it. And interesting, it's obviously the Premier League AGM tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how much this specific case is discussed. But yeah, the Premier League is reportedly sounding out the clubs to find out their views on this ownership. But obviously, look, it's an issue that obviously affects Newcastle. These rules came in after Newcastle's takeover by their now Saudi owners back in 2021. But yes, obviously, it affects every single Premier League club. Some Premier League clubs will look at the system and go, hang on a minute, we're quite happy with how it is. We don't want to see clubs at Manchester City get an injection of revenue and be able to get commercially viable deals that they see fit and not the Premier League see fit. However, some clubs may not necessarily agree. Clubs are always seeking investment, and one barrier to investment might be clubs being able to stop, maybe not being able to use the companies that they also work with to be able to put money into the clubs. It's going to be fascinating to see how many clubs go in favour of the Manchester City or how many clubs are in with the Premier League.
Yeah, it will be. And Ant, just away from this, obviously you're at Manchester City today. We understand you've got a bit of breaking news concerning the women's side for us.
Yeah, I've just been told in the last couple of minutes from sources at Manchester City that Manchester City's women's director of football, Niels Nielsen, has left the club. Now, he's only been in position for 13 months. The former Denmark head coach was kind of brought in to look at the infrastructure, obviously overlook transfers, and in his time at the club broke their transfer record by signing Jill Roord. They tied down the likes of Yui Hasegawa, Lauren Hemp, Chiara Keating to new long-term deals. But I understand he has left the club with immediate effect at the end of the season. There's also going to be changes to Gareth Taylor's backroom staff as well, with Sean Gota and Alaman, two of his most trusted coaches, also leaving the club. When Manchester City got so close, didn't they, to winning their first WSL title since 2016, losing on the final day to a goal difference to Chelsea. So Manchester City on the women's side shaking things up going into next season.
Great stuff, Anton. Thank you very much.